Well, welcome back. Most people, including most Christians and most atheists, will say that this is a Bible, but it's not. And I want to share with you 3 things that most people do not realize about this book. Now, we've been looking at the story of creation, and we're going to dive into the 3rd day. So here's the text from the New King James Version. Then God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the herb that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, the herb that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. So the evening and the morning were the 3rd day. So the first thing I want you to notice is the word land in verse 9. And if you look at the text as it appears here, you'll notice that it is in italics. If you zoom out and look at the rest of the text that we've read, you'll notice there are actually several words in italics. Now, I wonder if you know what those are about. To understand it, we're going to go to what's called the Interlinear Bible. And the Interlinear Bible presents the Hebrew text, the English text, and Strong's numbers, which gives us access to the dictionary, the Hebrew dictionary. So here's Genesis 1, verse 9. And you'll notice here that the word land has been put in brackets. And the reason it's in brackets is that word is inserted in the English. It does not exist in the Hebrew. So then when we go back to the original text and we notice all of those words that are in italics, they have been put there into the English translation to make it more understandable. They are not in the original text. The second thing I want to point out is the word yields. Now you're going to find this in verse 11 and 12. Now if we go back to the Interlinear Bible again, here we are in verse 11. I'm going to take you down to the second line. You'll find in the English the 2 words yields. But what I want you to notice is the word that is translated from the Hebrew in those 2 cases. They are both different words. Now you'll notice the Strong's numbers at the top give us a link to the definitions. So if we click on each one in turn, there's the first, which is translated as yields, which literally means to sow or scatter seed. And if we click on the second one, here's the second word, which means literally to accomplish. And what I also want you to notice is that word has been used in reference to God in verse 7. God made the expanse. So you can see in the English translation, when we use this word yields twice to translate 2 different words from the Hebrew, we are losing some significant meaning. The third thing I want to show you is in regard to the words seed and fruit. Again, we're going to dive back into verse 11 in the Interlinear Bible. And if we go to this word seed in Strong's Concordance and we scroll down, there's a lot of information here, but we will come across this section here where the word seed is used figuratively or symbolically. And I want you to notice all the different passages that it lists here where the word seed is used symbolically in the Old Testament. This is only the Old Testament, the Hebrew. If we go back again and look at the word fruit, we're going to find the same thing. And we're going to find this section here where the word fruit is used symbolically or figuratively in the Old Testament. Now you can explore those for yourselves. You'll notice that I've been using Bible Hub, and I'll put a link in the description for you to have a look. Have a look at the Interlinear Bible. and then go and dive into the different words in the Hebrew and look at what they mean and the way that they're used. You see, one of the interesting characteristics about Hebrew is it is what we call a concrete language. It works in physical things, things you can see and things you can touch. Hebrew has no words for concepts such as love, fear, stubbornness. They do not exist. They are described in physical terms. So a native speaker of the Hebrew gets used to the fact that they are constantly interpreting these physical symbols in ways which are non-physical. Now, we're used to doing this ourselves. We've already looked in this series at the word light, and we have this idea of enlightenment, which in actual fact has nothing to do with light, if you think about it. And we can go into the New Testament, we can see exactly the same thing taking place, and particularly when we talk about images such as seed and fruit. And I'm just going to show you one. So here's a passage from Galatians chapter 5. I'm reading from verse 16. I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary to one another, so that you do not do the things that you wish. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. Now then Paul goes on to talk about these works of the flesh, which are adultery, fornication, uncleanness, and so on. One of the things I note about this list is that whilst there are many things that I could quite happily say, I have nothing to do with any of these activities, there are things in here also that are very ordinary and very easy for any one of us to slip into, no matter how good we say we are. And we look at things like contentions, jealousies, outbursts of wrath, selfish ambitions, dissensions. These are things that we're all capable of. But let's go on. Notice what he says from verse 22. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. Paul is using this word fruit to mean something other than fruit. And when we read the text of the Bible, and especially the Hebrew, we have to realize that is actually inherent in the text. You know, the Muslims have the right idea. If you go and find an English translation of the Quran, they will call it the meaning of the Quran. If you want to read the Quran proper, you have to read it in Arabic. I think the same is true of the Bible. If you want to read or study the Bible properly, you have to do it in Greek and Hebrew. So what does day 3 mean? It's about the establishment of a foundation, something firm that we can base our lives upon. You know, I think the world of our mind is such an unpredictable beast. It carries us in so many different directions and suggests so many courses of action to us. The kind of things Paul was talking about in terms of hatreds and contentions and jealousies. All this stuff goes through our mind almost constantly throughout our day. These are not the sorts of things you want to base your life upon. You want to base your life upon something that is real, that is productive, that brings peace and joy into your world and the world of those people you interact with. And that takes conscious attention. If we are to follow the whims and fancies of our mind, both conscious and subconscious, we're going to be quite literally all at sea. So this third day is about bringing that into awareness and understanding that there are activities and actions and thoughts we need to set aside, and there are ones that we need to focus on and encourage and cultivate as useful and good. I think if you spend the time looking at the text of the Bible, and even just those few verses that we've looked at today, there's such a wealth of information in there. So I'd really encourage you not just to stick with your Bible translation. Go and have a look at the Interlinear Bible, the Hebrew text, the Strong's Concordance. Go looking for the questions it raises and the challenges that it brings to you and to your understanding of what the Bible really is. I've only really scratched the surface today, so very definitely invite you to throw a comment down below, and I'll look forward to having a chat with you in the days ahead. Stay well.